We've all been there. You're hanging out on your couch, playing a video game, and then, just as you're about to save the universe yet again, those dastardly developers pull the rug from under you and let you know their secret. You are actually the bad guy here. There are plenty of games where you play as a dark or morally ambiguous hero, but it's a special case when a game pulls that bait and switch on you and leaves you questioning every single move you've made. Let's take a look at 10 games where you were secretly the villain all along. Shadow of the Colossus starts out simply enough. A girl named Mono has died, and a strapping young lad called Wander has run off with her body and his horse buddy Aggro. Hoping to find a way to bring her back, they travel to the ruined tower in the forbidden lands beyond his home. He instead finds a mysterious spirit named Dorman that promises to save the girl if he can help her with just 16 little things. Dorman is pretty clearly up to no good, but Wander's better at stabbing sigils than he is at identifying ancient evils, and we've all made deals with the devil in games before. Tasked with hunting down and killing 16 gigantic critters called Colossi, Wander and Aggro slowly explore the map, hunt lizards, and kill themselves some great, big, beautiful beasts. As the game progresses, Wander becomes more sickly, and Dorman becomes more assertive. Until finally it is revealed that the boy has been killing great defenders powered by fragments of the evil Dorman spirit. With all of the pieces of Dorman now within him, the spirit erupts from the boy's body as a shadowy colossus that must be defeated by a party of warriors from town before Dorman can get up to its ancient apocalyptic shenanigans. Star Wars. Where a big dog can fly a spaceship, a big worm can control organized crime, and the fate of the galaxy is always about to be decided by who wins the next space wizard rumpus. It's great, and you know what else is great? Knights of the Old Republic. The 2004 RPG catapulted BioWare into the mainstream while also taking players 4,000 years into the storied franchise's past. KOTOR is a sprawling epic that puts players in the role of a neophyte Jedi who wakes up in the middle of a space battle with a bad case of retrograde amnesia. And take note, because amnesia is going to be a big theme in this list. Battling their way across the galaxy with an ever-growing collection of space pals, the Jedi is on the hunt for the Sith Lord, Darth Malak, and seeking a powerful object called the Starforge. While the game's morality system doesn't shy away from letting you indulge in the dark side, it also doesn't prepare you for the big third act twist. You are actually Malak's cruel master, Darth Revan, and your mind was wiped by the Jedi in an effort to reach the Starforge first. Is a man not entitled to the sweat of his wrenched murderers? The original Bioshock casts you in the role of Jack, a tabula rasa in a sweet cable-knit sweater, who survives a plane crash and finds himself trapped in the crumbling undersea city of Rapture. Torn between the will of populist revolutionary Atlas and the city's sneering, ultra-capitalist founder Andrew Ryan, Bioshock toys with morality by asking you to save or sacrifice the game's little sisters in exchange for superpowers, and then dives deep into player agency by revealing that as you have ruthlessly killed your way through the tortured city, Jack has been going along with it due to the power of 3 little words. Would you kindly? Revealed to be the genetically modified child of Ryan, Jack is a sleeper agent triggered by that tiny passphrase, a tool in the escalating conflict between Ryan and Atlas. He brought down the plane, is compelled to kill Ryan, and while you eventually get control of yourself back to defeat Atlas and escape, ultimately destabilizes what is left of Rapture and accelerates its social collapse. In 2009's Prototype, Alex Mercer wakes up in a laboratory morgue with a nasty case of shape-shifting superpowers and an even worse case of amnesia. Tuesdays, am I right? Escaping into a modern-day Manhattan under military lockdown following the release of a virus that causes violent mutations in its victims, Alex sets about growing his powers, investigating the virus, and trying to figure out just what happened to him. What follows is a twisty story about military experiments, illegal research, and absorbing human bodies for power. But even once you figure out that, Alex is the doctor who helped the current, escaped version of the Blacklight virus. The game still has another trick up its sleeve. Alex is also the guy who released the virus, throwing a vial of it onto the ground in Penn Station and infecting the city when he was concerned there by his previous employers. Quantic Dream's 2010 PlayStation exclusive, Heavy Rain, is often remembered now as the game that taught us to press X to Jason! 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 But at the time, it represented a revolutionary leap in visually rich, adult-oriented narrative games, telling the story of the hunt for the Origami Killer, a serial murderer who preys on children. Heavy Rain shifts perspective frequently and puts the player in the role of various investigators. One of these characters is Scott Shelby, who seems at first to be an archetypal sad sack private detective. He's particularly dogged in chasing down all of the evidence that he can of the Origami Killer's activities. But that's not all there is to it. The game's finale reveals Scott to be a fraud. What?
So you found my little secret?
Twisted into a killer by childhood trauma and abandonment, Scott lives a double life as the Origami Killer, and then uses his role as a detective to sweep up and destroy any evidence that might point to him. The 2008 indie darling Braid spends most of its length letting you think that you're just a really dedicated guy named Tim on an ambiguous quest to save a princess. As the puzzle platformer plays with time and expectation, however, things become a little more complicated. While it seems like the princess is helping you out and trying to escape from a knight who holds her captive, the game makes Tim into the ultimate unreliable narrator and reveals that it has been running in reverse. A falling out between Tim and the princess has led her to flee from him and actually put all of those deadly obstacles in his path. And Tim, unwilling or unable to cope with what is happening, has been manipulating time in his head to rationalize that he is stalking her. This also works as a crazy headcanon for the Super Mario Bros. As a series, Silent Hill spends a lot of time exploring trauma and playing in morally gray spaces. Rich in both metaphor and atmosphere, the series is one of the most beloved survival horror franchises of all time, and its second entry is still frequently held up as many fans' favorite. Released in 2001, Silent Hill 2 follows Ethan Sunderland, a man who comes to that foggy, monster-infested town to follow up on a letter that he received from his wife, Mary. Mary, of course, died of a terminal illness 3 years ago, so Ethan has got a mystery on his hands. A cast of other traumatized characters to help out, and a terrible guy with a geometric head and a big knife chasing him. As Silent Hill characters are wont to do, Ethan unravels more and more as he pieces together just what's going on in Maine's worst town. But most players still weren't expecting what was coming. Mary might have been dying, but it was Ethan who killed her, and he's likely snared in Silent Hill's web of guilt and horror for good. What list of games about villains with amnesia would be complete without a visit to the series that shares a name with that condition? Justine was released as a piece of DLC for Frictional's 2010 survival horror hit, Amnesia: The Dark Descent. A classic prisoner's dilemma story, Justine tells the story of a woman who awakens in a dark cell with no memory of who she is or how she got there. Compelled by recordings of a sadistic taskmaster named Justine, the woman is given the option of walking away with her life or spending a while avoiding hideous monsters as she attempts to save her fellow prisoners from a series of dangerous traps. Naturally enough, playing Justine's games leads you into a deadly trap of your own, but when all seems lost, you wake up again to a final revelation. You are Justine. And this has all been an experiment to see if you are still capable of human compassion and improvement. And while we're on the subject of what can change the nature of a man, let's talk about Planescape Torment. Set in the popular and colorful weird fantasy setting of Planescape, Torment is a classic Dungeons & Dragons game released by Black Isle in 1999. Driven more by story and character interaction than combat, Torment puts you in the shoes of the Nameless One, a mysterious immortal being who wakes up on a mortuary slab in the city of Sigil, with a disembodied skull talking to him, and you guessed it, a case of amnesia. Cursed with the ability to heal from any wound, the Nameless One has spent centuries accumulating so many memories that his brain occasionally reboots itself. And as he seeks his origins, he discovers that his original incarnation did this to himself, seeking to live forever and avoid damnation for a lifetime of crimes and cruelty. And even worse, the strange shadowy creatures that hunt him are sent by his own mortality, which is now a cruel physical being that seeks to punish and destroy the man who created it at any cost. And some waterfowl or despicable menace. Untitled Goose Game asks you to take on the role of a mischievous bird ruining people's days and running amok in an idyllic countryside village. And for the most part of the game, it seems as simple as that. You are a horrible goose and horrible geese mess with people, but there's nothing malicious about it, is there? Well, you may have spent hours gleefully stealing a boy's glasses, honking at gardeners, or performing for ladies down at the pub. The game's final level introduces something new into the mix: a dark intent. After successfully crossing the town, you reach a perfect scale model of the village and proceed to wreck shop. But at the end, there is the bell. This is a fitting reward for your mischief, and once you have it, you're prompted to take it back to your home by the pond. Sneaking back through town, you discover that this is not the first time you have done this, and your nest is filled with bells. In the end, we are left to ask, what has led the goose to this? Is it simply a grim, criminal compulsion, or are you trapped in an endless loop of recreating your own greatest sin? And there we go, 10 games where you turned out to be the villain, and only half of them should go see a neurologist immediately. This only scratches the surface of games that sneak around in the background and manipulate player expectations, but that's a plot twist for another video. Thanks for watching Screen Rant, we'll catch you next time.